Welcome, one and all, to the great
Trapped Under Plastic, a.k.a. the PCast.
No. That's definitely not better than the podcast for the miniature hobby enthusiast.
Shit, we didn't look up what that cool catchphrase was.
It was something like plastic crack addict.
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
That's all of us. God damn it, the pube's still here.
Getting a little itchy on the nosy.
Yeah, it's dog hair.
Didn't have a little springy coil to it.
It pushes me back from the mic. Boing.
All right, you have some updates for us about your list writing, box checking experiment from last time.
Yeah, I've heard in the comments and on the Facebook group, folks sounding off about willing to try it, starting to try it, or some more like professional reading around that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Which I haven't done. But I've been going every day with my list for the last 2 weeks since our last episode, and I'm feeling really good about it. Feeling like got this.
Okay.
The only box that sometimes doesn't all get checked is edit X hours a day. Because I try to like set a high goal for myself. It's like 4 hours a day.
What the heck?
And I can't always hit that. I've never hit 4 in a day. I'm not gonna lie.
I think shooting for an hour a day is fine.
Yeah, I know. And that's what I've been sticking to. So it's been really working for me. I feel like I'm further along in multiple hobby projects because of this too. Not in a way where I've like diverted my attention from some, but like I get to a natural point where I need to put something down, or I'm like, this is not doing it for me right now.
Okay.
Checkbox. You know, I can zenithal prime my whole primed 2,000 point army because that's one step.
Okay.
You know, add that white ink on top.
Okay.
And that way when I get to, you know, sitting down in a weekend and painting all of them, like they're all ready to go. I don't have any of this little steps that I could have done in 30 minutes another time.
Interesting. I like to containerize an experience all in one time. So I edited for like 8 to 10 hours yesterday.
Whew.
But I don't do that every single day. I do that like one day a week, maybe 2 days a week. Because I just want to get it over with.
Yeah.
Like when we were installing that sliding door, there came a point at like 8 p.m. on the first day where we're like, should we stop and continue this tomorrow? And I was like, I just want to finish it now because I don't want to have to think about it anymore. So yeah, I like to just get it all over with.
I often find, and you really made me think of this with the sliding door thing, that there's like this warm up and cool down period in a given day of any like major task. And so if you were to stop at 8 p.m. and you're like the next day, okay, we're going to kick it going the next day. You get up, you know, you got to give your dad some coffee. I don't know what old people drink.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to have a nice family breakfast and we're going to chat. And you're like, it's 10 a.m. now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's like, well, we get an hour and a half in and we're kind of hungry for lunch.
Oh, geez.
Before you know it, that second day, you're like 4 p.m. to get what you could have maybe got done by 11 p.m. the night before.
Yeah. It also is about coming in with the right expectations, right?
True.
Like if you walk into a video edit and you're like, I'm going to finish this in 4 hours. It's like, you're a fool. Of course, if it's a smaller video, you can definitely do that. But if it's like a 10-minute video with, some decent editing in it and you got to link up a voiceover to specific shots, it can get tricky. It can get a lot of variables going on there.
I'm not yet to that point of the linking up the voiceover, and that scares me.
Oh yeah, that's do I speed this footage up? Do I play it at regular pace? Do I show more of it with music and no VO? There's a lot of questions you got to ask.
I don't want to talk about that.
Is that giving you emotional turmoil right now?
Yeah, it is. I get overwhelmed because I think about everything instead of just like one thing.
Those are questions you never have the answer to, and they never go away.
All right, well, I'll just cross the bridge when I get there.
No, we should keep talking about it.
No, let's quickly change the subject.
Okay, let's. Okay, mustaches.
I decided last night that I was not going to shave for the podcast today.
Is this a week's worth of mustache?
Yeah, about 5 days.
5 days. Dang.
That is the first time anyone's ever been impressed with my facial hair.
It's coming from me.
Oh, that's why I'm showing my mass solidarity today, so I can always just do this.
Yeah, I'm sure that won't affect the audio at all.
No, you guys, I sound the exact same right now.
Actually, you kind of do.
Yeah, because this is special, like, super mesh made from predator suits.
So you're doing that because you're ashamed.
Yes.
Well, I'm telling you that you got a mustache to be proud of in 5 days.
All right. So in 2 weeks, I wonder if my wife would get mad at me. I just keep it until she says something.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if 2 weeks she still doesn't say anything, I'll have an even uglier mustache.
Okay. I mean, I can guarantee if I'm saying it's a good mustache, there's going to be a comment below saying how much of like a giant vagina you are.
Yeah. You're just.
You don't have a fully grown mustache in 5 days? What are you, a pussy? Like, yeah, it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I still have the hair in my head, so suck a D.
Not me for long.
God, you're so worried about that, aren't you?
I am, dude.
All right. Well, I think you can take like growth hormones and stuff.
I might do that.
Yeah. You can keep all your hair, but you grow man boobs.
Is it worth it?
I mean, might be.
We'll cross that bridge when I get there.
Yeah. Just start taking the drugs now. We'll worry about it
Okay.
later. Okay. Not any more mustache talk either. Thanks for going from one awkward topic to another. We have actual preamble to talk about here.
Yes. Drunk mini painting.
Drunk mini painting. So this is the first time that we've sat down to record since the drunk mini painting video has gone live.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to just kind of unpack a little bit about, this is how we thought it went. This is what what we thought worked well, why we had fun or didn't have fun.
Yeah.
So first off, Scott, did you have fun?
Absolutely. I think I've had fun every single time I've done it. So
Yeah.
I mean, not the throwing up part, but everything else is fun.
Yeah, and obviously we did not throw up this time.
Yes.
I guess not obviously because people don't know what happened after
Right.
the shooting.
Well, that's part of it. Yeah, we didn't throw up.
We didn't throw up. We stayed up way too late though.
Yes.
We stayed up to like 3 a.m.
Yeah. Just like watching hobby YouTube videos.
Yeah, and eating snacks.
Yeah.
But we quit the drinking there, and we did get a lot of comments about how we're giant weenies,
Giant weenie. Giant lightweights.
giant
I think if you
lightweights.
do a control F for the word lightweights in the comment, you might get 20, 30 hits.
Overboard. So, all right. So, what's your take on that, Scott? Okay? So they're like, "Oh, you guys were so drunk, or you guys were that hit you guys so much." What's your response to that?
My response to all the comments about me being lightweight are that they are entirely true. I definitely am. I'm known in my friend group. I mean, if I drink alcohol really fast, I don't know why. Maybe I get like anxious, but like when someone hands me a beer, I'm like polishing it off in like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. I don't know. I just got to get rid of it.
I don't want it anymore.
So yeah, I drink a beer really fast. I get drunk. Well, okay. Being drunk is a spectrum.
Right.
All right. I feel good. I
Yeah.
start kissing dudes. I start hugging everybody,
Get a little warm in the face.
I'm not like falling over myself. But
No.
yeah, I get some of that Asian glow going on,
Yeah.
I get a red face.
You're getting a little warm.
Yeah. It's true.
I think, there's a difference between us being drunk and us like we have a drink, we're feeling a little warm fuzzies. We're hanging out painting with buddies. We're giggling. We're having
We have an
fun.
audience. We have an
Yeah.
audience. Yeah.
We had Derek here.
That was the first.
Yeah. And that was a lot of fun. Derek kind of stole the show though, the jerk.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of the results, congratulations. You were the actual winner.
Yes.
We are now 1-1 in drunk mini painting.
Yeah.
I did like your green underglow on that ghost. It looked really nice.
I had a moment of clarity there.
Yeah, it was good. I should have stole that idea too.
Yeah.
But you did it later in the game, so I couldn't steal
I
it.
did it in the third round.
Oh, tricky. Was
Yeah,
that part
yeah.
of your strategy?
Yeah, my strategy was to get the thing decent looking as within a round and a half.
Okay, yeah. Actually, let's talk about this because you had like some plans. Did you have plans going in? I don't even want to assume.
Yeah, I knew how I really messed up the first time.
Okay,
Right, because I tried to do these really fancy things right away.
green in the skin tone.
Yeah, and this wet blended green undertone skin tone, and it left me with no time to finish all the fiddly bits of the whole mini.
Yeah.
So overall, it looked flat because it had this weird dichotomy of not getting all the colors on the mini first to see what worked or see what was missing.
Sure.
Or see where I wanted to draw attention.
Right.
This mini had a lot less fiddly bits, which was helpful.
Yes.
But it did have the boingy factor,
Yeah.
which was tough.
That was an unforeseen factor.
But it had two giant sections that both of us decided to paint different colors of the cloth.
Yes.
Plus the ghostly stuff going into the base, the kind of the ghostly legs or whatever.
Right.
And so we had to make decisions on making those look as good as possible. And I was
the
like,
biggest elements that you're saying?
Yeah. And so I was like, I just want those to have some nice contrast and wet blending right away. But over the black primer, trying to do a bright fade from that kind of creamy white down to whatever color. I can't remember what color I was using, like a orangish brown. I had to do more coats to get coverage on that than I thought. So I'm like, okay, this is just going to take me longer. So I need to pivot and just get everything with a decent looking paint coat or base coats, and then decide where I wanted to draw attention.
Okay. I didn't realize that the thing was black primed. There was no zenithal prime, right?
No, there was no zenithal.
So we're working over black. Okay. I didn't really have a plan. I resorted to how I painted the other executioner model, Lord Executioner that I had, with some obviously some differences. I was like discovering fun details about it as I was painting it, because you did that fade from the raggedy cloths.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to steal that. And so I did magenta up into my kind of yellow ochre cloth. And I was like, oh, like the cloth's being dragged through blood because he's an executioner, and you gave me shit for that. And that was a hilarious bit that I made it in. We should talk about how we met Derek.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah. So Derek took one of our classes in our only class we've taught.
At this point.
Yeah, the Minnesota one. And what did he mention? You mentioned it to me. He spoke to you first about it.
Yeah, no, because I chat with everybody in the class.
Well, yeah.
Just about everything. And we were chatting, and he mentioned that he was a bartender. And then I'm like, oh, man, I somehow got on the topic of it'd be pretty sweet to have a bartender at Drunken Mini Painting, because he was talking about watching the last one. I'm like, it's a fucking cool idea.
Yeah.
I'm like, let me check with the boss.
Yeah.
And then
Am I the boss in this case?
No, I checked with Amber. And she said, yeah, you can run it by Scott. And then I ran it by you. And you were all for it.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was good to have that. Like the painting thematic drinks. That was a lot of fun.
It was. Yeah, and trying to, like, we leaned a little bit on his expertise. I mean, like, all right, he knows mini painting. He knows GW stuff, whatever. We're like, Derek, it's kind of what we're thinking. You know, can you help us from the mixology side of it? And he was able to come up with some good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Not overly complex, but quite frankly, all of us nerds don't want to have 7 ingredients in a single drink plus Hershey syrup.
Oh, right. Yeah.
We should talk about the Hershey syrup too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we wanted to make a drink called Dirty Paint Water, and the best version of Dirty Paint Water is a matte shot, which is basically at the end of the night, the bartender takes the mat that they've been making drinks on, and it has a bunch of just various alcohols mixed together. It's kind of nasty, and they pour it into a shot glass, and you take that shot. That would be a perfect Dirty Paint Water.
Yeah.
But obviously Derek's not bartending in our basement for like a whole night. We don't have access to a bunch of like little, small amounts of alcohol mixed into a mat. So his idea was to take 3 drinks that were yellow, red, and blue, right?
Right.
And mix them together, and that should make some kind of muddy color.
Yeah.
And instead it made more of a red color. And it wasn't opaque at all. It was still kind of translucent.
Yep.
And so at first he added pineapple juice, because pineapple juice has some opacity to it. And
Yep.
it could look a little cloudy and whatnot. And that wasn't working. So I think we added more of the yellow drink, and that still wasn't working. And then I was like, let's just add in some Hershey syrup, because what I thought was, when you make fake blood on a movie set, you take light corn syrup, red dye, and you put in like a drop of Hershey syrup, and that gives you the necessary opacity and also like the darkness of blood.
Yeah.
So I was like, toss that in there, and that kind of did it, but it was still a little warm.
Yeah.
You want to be more brown, gray.
Yeah, but it worked. So the Hershey syrup was never part of the original recipe, but it made it in. And it tasted kind of chocolatey, which is kind of yummy.
Yeah. I liked how when I was editing it, you volunteered to write down the recipes for all the drinks. And I went to go find the clipboard that you wrote the recipes down on, and they were all entirely empty. Yeah. I was like, oh, thanks, John.
I wrote the names of the drinks.
You wrote the names.
I didn't write what was in them. I think I was too excited about, I don't know what.
Yeah.
Drinking it.
So yeah, that was fun. It was good. We made all 3 drinks ahead of time, then put them in the fridge, and then went and got them, just so that we weren't having to move the camera around a ton in between rounds.
Yeah. And I think that helped. I mean, not speaking for Derek here, but I think that helped him too because he got all his shots done before the event.
Yeah.
And so when he was just here hanging out with us and watching the 90 minutes unfold, or 90.
Yeah.
He didn't have to worry or stress out about having to still shoot something. And
Exactly.
stuff,
Yeah.
And
then I'm gonna operate a camera mildly drunk, so that's good.
Not in focus at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. The best shots, the video shots of that whole video are the shots that you came up with just on the fly where Derek puts the glasses in front of the camera and sets them down. I just
love those shots so much.
I love that. It was so cool. It just made it feel like a real boy.
Yeah. When in doubt, just add more shots to your video.
Yeah.
It just increases engagement and it feels more professional.
More random B-roll that fits in.
Yeah.
Note to self. Okay.
Yeah. All right. We had fun doing it. We'll probably do it in the future at some point with enough time in between the last one as to not upset any parties, married parties.
Right. Yeah. There needs to be a break between those. Although I think that the wives were much happier with the outcome of this one.
Absolutely.
Although my wife says she'll never watch the Drunken Mini Painting.
No?
Because she'll just get mad at me. And I'm like,
why?
Well, I appreciate you.
You're fairly reasonable.
Yeah, but she doesn't like my sense of humor. So she doesn't particularly find me funny about 80% of the time. So this is fine.
Your funny one-fifth your jokes are funny?
Yeah, to her.
To me, you're at like a 90%.
That's why you and I do a podcast. Me and her.
So yeah, that was good. There's another thing in the preamble that I want to talk about is John and I want to have a replacement for Adepticon, but just for us.
Yeah.
And we want to get Sam up here, and we're not gonna make videos. We're just gonna hang out and just have a fake con, paint, not stress about any other like work related things.
We'll all bring stickers and trade stickers.
Yeah,
because that's a thing you do at cons.
Yes. Wait,
yeah,
you do.
I don't know. I got a whole bunch of stickers last year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. I got stickers.
Yeah, I got stickers.
So yeah.
Mostly when I was drunk, so I don't remember.
Sam, if you listen to this podcast, you want to come to Minnesota for no reason that's going to advance your career, just to hang out.
Just to hang out and actually paint minis together. So usually, like, I don't know, people think that you and I hang out and paint minis together a lot.
We don't.
No. I wish we did.
Yeah.
It's just, there's always something to do.
Yes.
Right? And it's always, work.
Yeah. It's like if you drive an hour and a half to get here, you want to be doing it for a reason. And that reason typically is making a video, which is going to advance something. It's going to make me money. It's going to get more audience to our podcast and hopefully make us more money. So it's like trying to make the most of our time. We're not just trying to hang out.
Yeah. I mean,
but we want to hang out.
Right.
Because we're friends.
That's it. And that's the other reason I think, going back to the Drunken Mini Painting, well, people may have thought that we were more affected by the booze than we were. We were just so happy and having fun to talk shit and paint together.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's us hanging out with Sam. That's what the whole 3 days would be. Us knocking over each other paints and stealing dry brushes and shit.
I'm so happy how well that worked out.
Fuck. I had no idea.
You grabbed it and immediately leaned over, and I was like, opportunity.
I was so confused where it went. Because I'm like, it was just here. I didn't even consider you were bright enough to pull that shenanigans off. But you had a moment.
A moment of brilliance.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any other thing?
Let's
talk about it.
I had one other preamble thing that I just been thinking about lately in the last couple of weeks. And I would pose it to you, but I'm posing it more to all the sprues and spruettes out there.
Okay.
So sound off in the comments or sound off on the Facebook page or both. Has the coronavirus and the lack of being able to get together with your friends and play games, has that affected your hobbying side, your painting and building and all that side, positively, negatively, or it's about the same?
Yeah. My answer is not going to be satisfactory to this.
That's why I asked everybody else.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to suck.
Yeah. But I will say that Wylock's Armory, which is a YouTube channel that mostly focuses on terrain, I did a collab with him at one point. He made this video where he's playing a game of 40K with his wife, who doesn't like miniature war games. Maybe she doesn't like them, but she's apathetic about them. She's never played any. But the reason why was because he's like, I haven't played 40K in 5 or 6 months because of the coronavirus. I want to play. So for Father's Day or for his birthday, he forced his wife to play 40K and made a video about it. So I'll link that in the show notes below because it's hilarious. Just the concept is hilarious because he wants to play games. But me, no, I paint because I paint because I have to paint, and because I forever I have always been more of a painter than a gamer, so it hasn't affected me much.
And I think that's probably in some ratio what most of our audience is they lean, whether it's 55-45 or 90-10, they lean more on the painting side than the gaming side. But
you think so? I peruse our Facebook page, regularly. And I feel like most of it's gaming stuff. Am I wrong?
I don't know. I guess I don't look at it that way.
Is it survey time?
I think, yeah. I guess maybe we need to survey the audience. 100 Americans were surveyed. Oh, that's a Family Feud reference. So, all right.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious where people are at, because you played a fair amount, at least in a while. You were in a Guild Ball league.
Yeah, I played weekly. Yeah,
you're in your Blackstone Fortress. You had like a semi-constant game going.
Oh yeah, we haven't done that for a while.
And I think there's some other odds and ends games.
Yeah, we were gonna play Hate. The Blackstone Fortress group was gonna start to move into Hate, and then we picked out our tribes, and we just we never did it because it was right when it started.
So, one of the catalysts that we'll talk about this in the news section a little bit more that got me to think about this question was the General's Handbook for Age of Sigmar came out. And so I'm reading through that, and I'm looking at my army and changes of points and changes in death, and like, thought building, list building, and Coven Throne went down in points. It'll start me thinking about that.
I got a Coven Throne.
You got a Coven Throne. And it made me think about like getting excited to play more again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, I haven't played Age of Sigmar in like 3 months.
Okay. So you're getting excited about playing Age of Sigmar that we're talking about?
Yeah, it made me antsy in the pantsy to play it again, and it made me realize how little I've played lately, and how that's affected my actual hobbying is I find myself being drawn more to not painting stuff for gaming lately. I'm painting things from different games or stuff that I don't actively play right now, like Kingdom Death. But I'm also like, I feel like this opportunity has allowed me to set all of my army up to paint the whole thing, right? Because it's not like, oh, well, I don't want to have stuff half painted and go to a game, or, I didn't have a varnish over it, so my half paint jobs will get ruined or whatever. So I'm still sticking to my goal of in our area, you still technically can go and you can go play now at the game store. Yeah. You just have to, everything is socially distant and full masks on and everything like that. And a bunch of guys have played 40K and Age of Sigmar. I'd say a bunch, but I know of a handful of games that have already happened. People are there playing Magic and stuff. So, but it's still not what I would consider the most safe decision to make.
Sure, yet.
Yeah. And we're in Minnesota, and in overall cases compared to some other hotspots in the U.S., we're still pretty mild in cases, but you always got to be careful.
Yeah, it's because people are deciding not to do things like that, right? So if we decide to do things like that, then we maybe might become more like other states.
Yeah, that's true. I think 2 dudes playing Warhammer is not the same as 30,000 people going to a
Panama Beach,
right?
Yeah,
but anyway. So I really am trying to stick to my guns to say, well, when this is all done, I'm going to have a 2,000 points army painted. And so,
dude, me too. Oh my gosh. I love that.
It's going to feel good. And I think that'll make us more excited. So when we can play again, it'll feel that much better.
I emerged from the what do you want to call it? The Corona hibernation.
Yeah.
Anew
From the
fully painted army.
From the fallout shelter.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I like that. I like that goal. It's like when a vaccine, not a vaccine, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, if you're talking about the antibody vaccine.
Well, like, because it's a hard thing to determine, right? When it's all over,
Yeah.
You know? So I feel like that's kind of a hard cutoff right there, right?
Sure. Yeah, that would be it. A trusted working vaccine that we can take, and then poof, we're good. Hopefully that will be in the near future.
You got some Mayo Clinic insider info for us right now?
That's all I'm at liberty to say.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Yeah. I like that challenge. I think that's a cool challenge to pose to other people to come out of the coronavirus with a fully painted army.
Yeah. I mean, or if you play a different game, let's say you got I'm playing Gloomhaven with some buddies now. Well, a friend and his wife, and they're completely sequestered, and I'm completely sequestered, and we've both had tests, so we're all in the negatory, but we play Gloomhaven every week. But like, let's say you play a game like that, and it's a regular thing, and it hasn't been happening, or a D&D game or whatever. It's like, set the goal for yourself that the next time we get together, I'm going to have every person's character painted, or I'm going to have all the Gloomhaven characters painted, or something like that. So whatever floats your boat.
Okay. Cool.
Right? That's the preamble for
That's
today.
the preamble. All right. Let's talk about what we painted. I did some work
You did some work
this week.
I saw that.
Yeah. I finished my Orion commission. Sorry, my leg is bleeding, so I keep moving my head away from the mic.
To lick it?
No, just to look at it.
No.
I guess I could do this. Anyways, I finished Orion. It was a commission. It's one of the 2 remaining commissions I have left. So now I have Juan left, and unfortunately it is the biggest Juan. Why are you saying it that way? Saying what way? Just forget it. I will.
Is the last one the Titan or something?
Yeah, so I have a converted Night Titan. Night Titan, is that the right word? The big guys, the plastic kits made by DW. And Nighton. I have a converted one to be a Chaos one, because when the commission was given to me, Chaos Titans did not exist. And so
way to date how long this is taking you.
It's over a year. But yeah, so it's entirely converted. I see they paint it now, and it's all on its individual like armor plates and stuff like that. And painting a Titan doesn't necessarily need to be complicated.
Right.
The commissioner wanted me to do some freehanding on the armor plates of like the various chapter badges and whatnot.
Look at what I started.
So yeah, that's the last one. But once that's done, I've been turning down every single commission opportunity I've gotten for the last year since I took those 2. So I'm done, man. I'm a free man.
Is it going to feel good?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I always think about the obligations I make to people like every day. Like usually it comes once a day. When I think about one, I think about every single one. And like, in a 5-minute period, and then I feel sad and then I move on.
I'm just not going to think about it.
I mean, okay, just to level set, people are paying me to do this, so I'm not enslaved. I'm not being persecuted. It's just, a little bit of mental burden. That feels good to get rid of. So yeah, I got one left. Excited about that. Finished Orion, big display based. Use the Dark Messiah.
Dark Messiah.
The plane that you got me for my birthday, the biggest one I think, because I needed that
60
for
mil.
Yeah, put a tree on there. I've never made a tree. Oh, I made one tree before, but it really wasn't. I didn't make anything. I just took a plant out of the ground with roots, and I made that out of a tree. Mm-hmm. That was for my very first Crystal Brush entry. That tree.
Oh yes, I remember.
Just a root. And a branch. So I actually sculpted branches this time for the first time. That was cool. Used bark again for the landforms. I went crazy with static grasses and tufts.
I noticed he was in a meadow.
Dude, heck yeah. 3 different kinds of flowers, like 6 different kinds of. I used the micro tufts from Gamer Grass.
Yeah.
Those tiny little things, dude. I love them so much. So I finished that. That was good. I finished the Chronicler, which to be honest, there wasn't that much left to do. I just had to paint his face and maybe some like these little battery cell things on his backpack. So he's done being painted, and now he needs a display base. And the last thing I started to work on was I painted another hate figure of mine, the Shaman in my Bulgar tribe, and the scheme I use for them is black skin tones, white hair, purple glowing blades. And so this time I painted it in a different way. I took reference from Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones, the shaman in that tribe. I don't know. I know in India, I forget if it's north and south are separated by like kind of more of like a wheat complexion in the north and kind of more of a darker complexion in the south. But I went for more of a darker Indian skin tone on this figure and kind of like popped it in Photoshop and like looked at some skin tone colors and kind of like did some pixel peeping and then painted the figure based on that palette. But yeah, that was a fun experiment.
It's nice. It had almost like a maroony, purpley tone to the dark skin. Which it adds more depth that way, and it's not just painting it brown because brown people aren't just brown.
Right, yeah.
Just like white people aren't white.
Yeah. And there were some cool suggestions to use like blues in the highlights, which can give it, I don't want to call it like a color shift look, but I don't know, maybe more richness again. But yeah, I learned a lot of things from doing that, and I'm looking forward to doing it again.
Sweet.
But that's it. That's what I painted.
That's a good amount of things.
Thank you.
I say that when you sent me that picture, that Dark Messiah base on there, I'm like, oh man, that looks so good.
Yeah.
I can't wait to use one of those. Yeah, that was under the suggestion of Darren Latham.
Oh, is it Latham?
Latham.
You're doing it to antagonize. Okay.
Because I was bugging him on getting some sexy display plinths for Golden Demon. I was like, Darren, what do you use? 'Cause I want to copy you because I want to win. He's like, I use Dark Messiah. And I was like, okay, let me check this out. And they're all like poured resin or what are they?
They're Delrin.
Oh, yeah. And he puts them on a lathe. Yeah. And
it's actually really not complicated.
Oh, but it sure looks.
It looks nice.
So freaking smooth.
Yeah.
It's so smooth. You don't have any wood grain or anything on there. And they're that right amount of little bit of shine, but not like super glossy. Mm-hmm. They're so cool. Anyway, and the owner, I talked to him of Dark Messiah, super nice guy. He was going through some struggles and changing where his studio was and was super communicative and, let me have updates all along the way, and was a really nice guy. So,
small businesses are
small
often.
business. Yeah. And he's out of the UK, and we still got him beautifully shipped and all protected, because I'm guessing these things, they might chip if they were to bang against each other.
Possibly.
So anyway, there's a free plug. What did I paint? So really only one thing, but I've been working on something else. I painted the test model for my OCR Bone Reaper army.
Okay.
And
right, I saw that.
Yeah. So my goal with this was not so much to make sure the colors were the colors I wanted, although I did end up making some tweaks based on how it looked, but I wrote down all the steps. That's a good idea. So I have every step that I needed in the correct order, because sometimes, steps 5, 6, and 7, or whatever steps, could be done in a variety of different ways, but there's oftentimes a most efficient way to do those steps. And so it made me double think, and I actually switched some steps around after having wrote them down and be like, actually, I should do this before I do the metals, because I don't want to worry about being super cleanly when I've got 70 models to paint for this.
Yeah.
And then going over the metals with that Vallejo metal color will just erase all mistakes.
I think the first one I saw was good, and then you made changes and showed me the second one, and there was an obvious improvement.
Yeah. What I realized was, and I showed this to my buddy Blanche as well. I sent him that picture, and he's like, it's missing something. He's like, I don't know what. He's like, I'm not a good enough painter to know what, but it's missing something. And I realized that there was not strong enough accent colors. It's kind of a Blanchitsu style, but there wasn't a secondary color that really stood out. So I did two things on the rework. One, I did one extra level of highlights on the face and the bone parts of the shield on the top. So really to boost the contrast up to a pure ivory.
Okay.
And then I added the verdigris with the oil paint. And that gave another interesting color on there as an accent color. It's not overly distracting, but it adds a little bit more interest there. Otherwise, the main pop of color comes from the green glow and the gems.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's meant to be fairly desaturated paint scheme. But so 17 steps. That's how many steps it takes.
17.
17, and that's more than I was hoping.
I wonder if people who paint armies compare the amount of steps it takes, because like backpackers compare like how heavy their packs are. Like, okay, mine's like 30 ounces. I wonder if like
30 ounces. The backpack itself, not with stuff in it.
Yeah,
okay.
like my dad's like an ultra lightweight like backpacker, and so they like the guys in the forums, because old people use forums still. Shout out to forums, man. I use forums for such a long time, but just no one cares about them anymore. Yeah. They compare the weight of their pack. So I wonder if like army painters like compare like how many steps took you to get that end result.
Right. Yeah. And
of course, it's not entirely quantifiable, right? Because
right.
But whatever.
Yeah, you're taking a quantifiable number and then comparing it to an unquantifiable artistic result.
Right, yeah, because certain steps may have taken way longer than, one of your 17 steps.
Right. And this paint job, if I cut it down to 13 steps, the final result might look,
half as good. Half worse.
Or it could look 95%, and maybe it would have been worth it. Now, there's a whole science experiment in that,
yes,
of which there is some takeaways to learn from, but there's also a lot that's really individually unique to this specific scheme this way. And so would it be helpful for other people to learn that? I don't know. But I just wanted to find a number of steps that I could accomplish in a weekend to do the whole thing. And I'm not 100% sure. One other thing that I did learn is this test mini, he was primed black and I didn't zenithal him. And that was one of the issues why I didn't feel like I had enough pop from the bone in the head and shoulders region, because I was fighting that in my base coat stages and building up highlights. I felt like I was like a half step lower in the brightness scale. So
okay,
it may be that I'm going to zenithal prime the whole army, because I asked Vince V and he's like, just do it. Always do it. So yeah, I just ask him like he's an old monk up on a mountain somewhere. And I kind of just hike up there like once a week, and I ask him a question. He's like, "That's a dumb question." No, he doesn't say it's a dumb question. But I feel like I should have known this.
He answers the question that your soul is asking, not that your mouth is asking.
Exactly. And then I just walk back down the mountain, and I'll be like, "I'll see you next week."
You have some tea, and then you leave.
Yeah. Diet Dr. Pepper. I think that's his jam, or at least he was. I think he might have kicked the pop.
I was thinking more of like a monk thing to drink would be like tea. Not literally.
But it's funnier to picture him in like the Buddhist robe.
Teacup with like Dr. like Pepper in it. Yeah. I love that.
That's what's funny. That's funny right there. Yeah, but like he has the monk Buddhist robes on, but over top of that is the green apron.
Man, I love that.
Oh, poor Vince V.
All right.
Taking shit.
So you painted a test model?
I painted a test model, and that was
there's more?
All the way done. And then it was one of those spots where I didn't want to start something new for painting, but I wanted to get excited about something. So I started on a competition piece. This was a piece that...
For what?
For Golden Demon.
Oh, just to have something in the pocket.
Yeah, I put it in the pocket.
Okay.
This is a model that I bought like 2 times ago. We were here when we went to the source. The Fomorian Crusher. I have no idea what that is. It's the big Cyclops monster thing. Oh, Ogroid Thermitage. Is that are they made from the same kit? They're the same set. Like, or they're not. They're different individual boxes, but they came out at the same time to be like bad guys for Warcry. Okay, gotcha. Okay. And so I took them off the sprues. I had to use my new Iwata clipper because I got a fancy new Iwata clipper, and I was like, I want to clip some shit. so I'm gonna clip this ogre dude. Was it life changing? It's so much better than my $1.49 Menards ones. Yeah. It's not even close. Just having that flat reference edge on one side is so nice. And it's just like super smooth that it cuts through. My other one was like click. I was like, oh Jesus, stuff's flying everywhere.
Scared me.
So I was thinking of the story of the scene as I'm cleaning him and assembling him, and he's got some options for different hands and different heads and stuff, and the story I wanted to tell. And I have this idea because he's chained up.
Oh yeah,
And then he's just broken from chains to pillars.
Oh, Samson?
What? No. Okay. So here's the scene I'm thinking.
Dude.
He is...
I think I know what you're going to say.
I don't know what that bunny rabbit thing is.
You're sending me waves right now.
Oh,
These are
okay.
our antenna.
It's just like the chick from Guardians of the Galaxy. With her little, her little feelings. She can sense your feelings.
Yeah.
All right. So here's my idea. See how close you get. This giant Cyclops thing is on display. Is some kind of a sign of posterity and success by this city of humans in Sigmar. And he's in a town square. And he is chained to these big pillars. And people have thrown tomatoes and rotten cabbages and stuff at him. And so you could see them like splashed on him in stains and stuff at his feet. And he's got some wounds where maybe they've thrown rocks and stuff as well at him. And the scene is he just can't take it anymore. And he has broken the pillars, sloth style from Goonies, which you need to watch. He's broken the pillars, and it's a bright, sunny day. So there's hard shadows on the front edge of the base rim of people running, of their shadows running with their hands in the air away. Like the crowd has just dispersed.
Okay.
And I took off all of the chaos symbols that are like branded on him and on his armor and everything. I took all of that off. He still has like skulls and helmets and stuff around his belt. And I'm like, well, maybe if he was in a war or something and they captured him as a prisoner of war, that he would still have that stuff.
Okay.
He's got no weapons on him.
I like it.
So
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. So I've got him, and I'm going to use the big 60 mil Dark Messiah base for him.
Heck yeah. So I didn't think that. I thought you were going to go in a gladiatorial route. Like he is the monster that they sick on the gladiators to fight for entertainment.
Ooh, that's good too.
Yeah. Man, do whatever you want. I think they're both good ideas. The first one gives me biblical vibes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like he's tearing down the pillars to bring down the establishment on top of all the people that are perpetrating him.
Yes.
What does posterity mean? I thought I knew what it meant.
I use words I don't know what they mean.
I mean, same.
Doing it for posterity. I think I do know, but
we can remove this part from the podcast.
Yeah. Hey, I'm an idiot. Do you know what this means? I don't know. I'm also an idiot. I guess this means we're keeping it in the podcast.
What?
So that's what I painted, and he is all fully built now. I did a lot of what I call Trevarian cleanup work with the. I used the sprue goo technique for cleaning mold lines and multiple passes of that with sanding and wet sanding between.
Wow, yes.
So he's all fully smooth and all the gaps are 100% closed. Also, that model has a big single pauldron, like one giant shoulder pad, and it's so large. But I actually sculpted it so that it's like attached to this leather harness thing that he's wearing, like a battle harness. I sculpted it so that shoulder pad is not going to be on him.
Oh.
And so you can actually just see the full strap. It's a separate piece.
Oh, okay. That's nice.
And so I had to carve away where it has like the bumps up for it to connect, as well as to define the shape of the shoulder pad, because I kind of made it mushy underneath.
Okay.
Because he looks more he looks less like he's a big dangerous thing, and he almost looks a little bit sad, like he's a little bit pathetic without these big scary things. And I think painted in the right way, he can be looked to almost where you don't look at him as a monster, but look at him as being the one that is being persecuted here.
Yeah.
So, and it creates a much better viewing angle too, because you don't have this big off-center thing on one side and nothing on the other shoulder. The shoulder's almost kind of hunched, so he just feels slightly like deflated without that big shoulder pad. And then you get your eye is drawn right to that face instead of it being this big kind of thing that throws you off on where's my center for attention.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's it. That's what I worked on.
Okay. It kind of makes me think about the fact that when you're looking for a piece to exhibit a certain kind of emotion, considering what it might look like if certain things were removed from it is really important. Whereas the tendency can be to look at the box art, so how it's painted and how it's modeled, to be like what the end product is all the time. But a simple thing as removing a shoulder pad can have such a drastic difference.
Yeah. And it's not that the model looks bad with the shoulder pad.
No, yeah.
And I think that's a really key thing you're saying there, is that the way that it is painted or sculpted or decided to be posed on the box art does not mean that's the best way. It just means that that's the way that they decided to go with it for a final product. And you're not forced to have your model always be judged to that being the 100%. And where do you fall below that number? You can't possibly fall above it or go off of that linear trajectory. You can have your own trajectory. So
yeah,
we'll see how it goes.
All right, cool. Sounds like a cool idea. When's it going to be done?
I don't know. I have it pinned on a hobby holder. So next steps is to prime it, and that I think once that gets going, I'm going to be excited. I'm going to paint this guy in oils because he's a bigger model. I'm going to at least start him in oils.
Okay.
I actually base coat. You just get to have fun with the base coat too, because I base coat in acrylics first, and it's just truly base coating, a single color over all of that surface. So you paint the whole model in just base coats and acrylics, and then you go on to oils. I'm curious to where this will take me in terms of how far I'm going to go with oils and then abandon them and then try to finish up, the final version of the model back with acrylics again. I'm curious to where on that timeline I'm going to abandon oils and where I'm going to bring back acrylics. I don't know. I might do 90% of the model in oils, or I might do 50%. I don't know yet. We'll see how it goes.
What would happen with me is the moment that I felt like things were happening that were outside of my control is the moment I'd go back to a comfort zone.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that'd just be just because of the merit of the fact that it's a competition piece and I want the best result possible. Right?
Yeah.
So as soon as you feel like you're in over your head, that's when I would change.
Yeah. And that's going to happen.
Maybe.
And it's, the fine detail work and the textury things in oils is where I'm feeling like I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable in any of it right now. I've only, done one model in oils, but I'm excited with the potential, and I see the possibilities of getting this to that 75% mark much faster than I traditionally have done. I usually dick around in that middle 50% for far longer than I feel like I should.
Yeah. It'd be a sick product is a set of paints, because we need another one of those.
Paints!
A set of paints that use identical pigment combinations but just different binders. So I have an oil red and an acrylic red, and they're identical in if that's possible. I don't know if that's possible, but one's oil and one's acrylic, and I can start my model on acrylic, or on obviously I need a base coat on acrylic, and then work on oils. And then when I change over and I want to do like very finicky minor details, perhaps like panel lining or things like that, or scratches, for instance, I have identical hues to my oil counterparts, because I feel like that'd be the problem, is like I'm trying to like match these things, might be a little bit off.
That is a really good point.
That'd be kind of cool.
I think if you worked with single pigment paints, because most of that's a nice thing about freaking oils is oils tell you on the tube what pigments are in it.
Yes.
Even if it's multiple. So if you're like, okay, it's got PB14 and Y11, those are the two pigments that are in this bottle. If there were the ability to get acrylics that would work well with miniatures, that you could then match up those two pigments, in theory, that would work.
Yeah.
But many paints don't tell you what the pigments are.
Yeah, many hobby brands definitely don't.
No. I don't know if like the Vallejo had the tube ones recently.
Oh, yeah.
Or was it Vallejo?
Oh,
or
it's Scale 75.
Scale Color.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Scale Color.
They had the tubes, and I wonder if those have pigments. If you guys own those and you want to check them out, see if they do tell you what the pigments are in those. I'm curious. They give you a pretty wide range of colors in each area, which leads me to believe they probably wouldn't because they're mixing so many. And I can't recall if Chimera is. We'll check that later. If Chimera tells you what the pigment is, because those are mostly single pigment.
Let's check right now.
Oh, look at that. I see him on the shelf behind you. I'm going to commentate. Scott he chooses to grab the magenta, and he shakes it up for no goddamn reason. He is.
What do you think? Yes or no?
I'm going to say yes. Final answer.
You are
correct.
No, it's PR122 for the pigment for magenta. No, magenta.
All right. PR122. I'm going to pull up my phone. I'm a weirdo, so I take pictures of things. And I took a picture of the primary and secondary colors that Dmitry Fashechko uses. And
Freak.
There is the magenta that he uses. What is the pigment?
PR122.
I think we just fucking cracked the matrix, boys.
All right. That's a product that doesn't need to exist.
Because Chimera has done it. All right. I guess I know how to paint this thing now. Woo!
That's cool. All right. Now you can make adjustments and hopefully not have to mess around with hue too much. There might be some difference in hue just because of what the pigment is bound in. I don't know. That would be an interesting experiment.
Yeah. But I think if the tone is kind of on point, and even if it's not 100%, when you're dealing with different layers of different colors that are all kind of mixing in the sex pot together.
Sex pot?
I don't know. Their juices are touching and that stuff. That, it'd be close enough.
Sure, yeah.
You'll figure it out.
Likely.
It's just like when you are working on painting some skin or leather or fabric or whatever, and then the next day you come back and you need to do more of that, and you need to mix the colors again to get your gradation.
Yeah.
Is it 100% the same?
Does it ever matter?
No.
Not really.
It doesn't. It's close enough where the eye can connect those as the same things.
All right. Yeah. So we've been shooting the shit for about 45 minutes.
Jeez.
And we haven't even gotten to the main topic yet. So I'm going to move us forward.
Sorry.
The topic, both of us. The topic for today is from a patron. We don't know which patron because we're garbage cans. But mostly me because I'm the reason it happened. It doesn't matter. It's from a patron, and the question is when do you give up on a model? And as per usual, we like to kind of expand on the question.
Mm-hmm.
So what other questions are we going to be aiming to answer today, John?
Oh, damn it. Okay, let me look it up. I do know this. Why don't you just buy us some time? Scott, buy us some time. Tell us a joke.
Sometimes
all right.
I feel like a woman.
Okay, that's not how I wanted you to buy time.
Okay, I tried.
All right. I appreciate your effort. Okay, so we're going to expand this a little bit. When do you decide to give up on a mini? When do you decide to give up on a project or an idea? When do you decide to give up on a paint scheme? And finally, when do you decide to give up on a product?
Wow.
Sorry.
They're all great questions. And I feel like I only want to talk about just times I've given up on miniatures in each of those categories that you just laid out, and maybe
That's a good idea.
Look at them
and analyze that. Okay.
So there was an idea for Golden Demon I had about an elf, sitting in a throne. It was the book that I wanted to copy. The cover of the book, which was called, I can't remember.
Tuna of the Sea.
Yep.
Chicken of the Sea.
SpongeBob SquarePants fans.
Chicken in the basket.
I bought the model. I got seashells for the base diorama. I got other elements in line to do the idea for Golden Demon, but I didn't do it. Instead, I painted Drazar, which is not done yet, but there was no Golden Demon, so there was no end timeline for that. But anyways, the reason why I decided not to do that was merely a matter of time. And so it was, I was excited about that idea, but I reasoned with myself that with 3 weeks until Adepticon, I think it was 3 weeks at that point, I wasn't going to be able to put enough time into the conversion of this model and paint it well, or vice versa. I would convert it poorly and paint it well, but it wasn't enough time to give love to both stages. So in that case, it was the time and what's the word I'm looking for? Not end destination, but like there was a time restriction and I wasn't able to get to where I wanted to be by the end of the time. Doesn't matter. Anyways. But yeah, time. That's one reason why you might give up on an idea.
Yeah, my example of this is very similar to yours, and that is the time crunch or a timeline. And for my very first crystal brush, I was planning to do the squad category. So that's where you have like a team of minis or a unit of minis. That was called unit category.
I think it's 3 or more.
3 or more. And I had this whole death card unit all planned up. And it was 5 models that I had customized and completely kit bashed, all 5. And I had all 5 built. And I started painting this one. Then I'm like, okay, there's no way I'm going to get all 5 done. What's the minimum for the unit? 3. Okay, what are my 3 coolest models for this? Those are the ones I'm going to focus on. And the time kept going, and I still wasn't done with the first one. And finally, I realized I just need to commit to making this one as best as I can, enter it in single model, and abandon the idea of a unit piece. So both of ours are related to a time restriction. And I think there's something important to be said about that. I have a bunch of ideas that I haven't done. But I don't tell myself I've 100% given up on them. Because I may get inspired, or I may come back to it 6 months, a year, 5 years from now, and realize now I have what I need, either from a skill set standpoint, from a base model standpoint, from whatever, to make that idea happen. So I don't actively give up on a project, but I will shelve it, either mentally or physically or both. But yeah, when you're dealing with time and a time restriction, that is most often where you have to have that hard conversation with yourself that I need to abandon this.
Yeah.
In some capacity.
Yeah. There's a lot. You asked a lot of good questions, but I also want to address what I feel like the spirit of the question is. And that's when you give up on a model. I don't think at any point do you, maybe this is just me being, this is how I think, but I wouldn't ever fully give up on a model, and with the knowledge that I am never going to paint this thing again, and I haven't finished it at whatever stage I'm at. I think maybe the question is more like, I'm painting a model and I hate what it's looking like. When do you hit the reset button, strip a portion of it, and then restart and paint it again?
Oh.
So when is the paint scheme so far removed that you have to start over? And since I just posed the question, I think I'll try to answer it first, and you can kind of think about it while I stumble through it. I'm trying to think of an example of one. At some point while painting a miniature, I realized this looks like garbage all over and can't be used. I don't know. I think that probably happens a lot when you're doing test models for armies, where you're kind of allowing yourself the ability to make mistakes and try things out and see what they look like. And that might need a hard reset. But typically whenever I'm committed to some kind of thing, it's not so terrible that I need to restart. And in fact, this is kind of a dangerous thing to discuss, because we've mentioned the ass phase of the miniature before, right?
Yeah.
Some people might mistake the ass phase of a miniature for I need to restart, and I think that's a thing that often happens.
Yeah.
Is that you don't realize that if you just kept painting and just put more paint on more portions of the miniature, it would look twice as good, just because not everything's covered in black primer or white primer or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And when those other colors are on there, even if they're just a base coat, that can totally change the look of a mini.
Absolutely.
So I think I'm there with you. I think this is leading into the portion of the question where we're talking about a color scheme. When do you abandon a color scheme?
Okay.
And I don't think you need. I don't think it should be something that would happen to you very often, where you would wholeheartedly abandon a full color scheme. I think, like you're saying, you're working through the process of painting that mini, and you may decide that that magenta just doesn't work the way I thought it would with the blue. So I'm going to keep working the model, massaging it with different colors. Maybe I remove that magenta and I make it some kind of a rusty orange instead, and see how that looks, see how that plays with the other major colors on the model. Not being afraid to go over a section. It's only just paint. If you paint on top of that, you don't need to strip that,
Right.
As long as you're using thinnish paints, not big, heavy, goopy things, which you shouldn't have in the first place.
Right.
It's not going to obscure details.
Yeah. So to answer your question, when should you give up on a paint scheme? I think the answer is when the model is fully painted and you can see your full idea actualized. Because until then, you don't know what it's gonna look like and what it's gonna feel like. So that's one question answered. All right.
Bam!
On to the next one.
Womp, womp, womp. Okay, so the next one would be, when do you give up on a product, a mini related product?
That's a tough one. I mean, when you see someone else online using a product and you realize that whatever they're doing is a million times easier. So, for instance, when I see someone pin wash something with an enamel wash, and it's like, that's a lot easier than acrylic wash. What am I doing with my life?
Yeah, obviously nothing good.
Of course, it's the time and place for both enamel washes and acrylic washes. But yeah, that's step number one. Maybe you see it maybe online somewhere. People are using some kind of product that make their life easier in an area where you struggle. Mm-hmm. That could be number one. Number two, you use a Vallejo primer and you don't let it cure long enough, and it starts peeling off after you've let it cure for 20 minutes. So experiencing hardship enough times for you to want to try something different. Mm-hmm.
So when you were saying when you see somebody else do something better, you're saying you're going to abandon what you have done because their thing looks better.
Yeah, like you're exposed to a different technique, a different product, and you're like, wow, that looks way easier than what I do. I'm going to start doing that.
Okay, so instead of using Agrax Earthshade, you're using the Tamiya panel liner.
Yeah.
As an example.
I don't know. I kind of want to abandon using Scale 75 paints, and that's a choice that I've come to like over the course of 3 years of using them. So it's not because they're bad, but it's just because I know their properties pretty well, and I know what results they produce, and how what techniques you need to use to get good results with them. Maybe not in totality, but a large amount. And I want to try something different. So maybe after you're burnt out of using a product because you used it so long and you're tired of its results and you want something different.
Yeah. I think this falls into two buckets. At least it does for me mentally. The first bucket is you find out about something that accomplishes the same goal, but just simply does it better. Or you experiment with something and you find that it works better for your goals, or it helps you achieve a better final product, and over time you decide that it's simply more efficient for my work to continue with this and abandon what I'd done before. So first bucket, the example I'm going to say here is, something that I just find out there's something that does the same thing but does it better. When you use super glue on your plastic models, and then you find out about plastic cement that does the same thing, but for plastic models, it just does it better. So I have abandoned using super glue on plastic models. Now, folks, I'm sure somebody's going to say, well, actually, in this situation, it would be better to use super glue.
Yeah, it's faster drying and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you can use accelerator and that kind of thing. And you're absolutely right. I'm not saying I never, ever, ever, or you should never, ever, ever. But in the purposes of talking about abandoning, we're talking about from our regular workflow standpoint.
Sure.
That's one. One that just I've experienced recently was metal files, right? We all have those metal files that you can use when you're cleaning a model, and it kind of works like sandpaper, but they can be a little bit more abrasive and really dig into stuff in bigger sections. You can really grind it down quicker. Recently, you and I went to a local store called Hub Hobby, and I purchased mini versions of those. So the regular ones are like, I don't know, like 5 inches long, and these are like 2 inches long, and they look like the same thing, but they just went in the Rick Moranis Honey I Shrunk the Kids thing, and they went, beep, and they made them tiny. And I've been using those. Oh my God, they're just so much better because they're smaller. And there's so many spots in little minis, and especially plastic and resin minis, where I can get into corners and under armpits in their ball sack and stuff, and clean the ball sack properly.
Man, dude, can you imagine filing a ball sack? That just feels wrong on a natural level.
Yeah. Sometimes, there's a mold line on that ball sack. You got to clean it off.
That's not the mold line. That's natural.
It's all natural. What, you got a mold line on your ball sack?
Kinda, yeah.
It runs all the way
down the middle, yeah.
Oh man, you better take a file to those. I'm not throwing away or selling my old files, but they're gonna sit in a drawer, 95% of the time probably when I need a file. If it's a big piece, and those big old sons of Bahamut come out, I might bring out the big old files again.
Okay.
But for now, this is that. Okay, that's bucket 1. I found a thing, and I found a better version that does that thing. Bucket 2, I've decided to make a transition to test something myself, and I've grown to decide that I'm going to shed my old skin. An example of this would be you deciding to move away from scale paints. And you wouldn't just one day do it and be like, I'm just never using a scale paint again. I bought all these whatever paints. I'm just going to use them instead. But you would start to use those new paints more. You'd really get to figure out how they work, in what ways they either help or hurt where you're at, and really try to improve your painting with that. At that point, a natural point might come where it's just like, I just don't find myself using scale paints anymore. I always reach for these new ones instead. And that's where, maybe not shouting it from the rooftops, but you have abandoned a product where I've grown beyond it. That's not to say never. They make some great thin down glazes with scales, and they've got a couple of colors I really love. I'm not abandoning them forever, but
sure, yeah.
For the majority, I've moved beyond.
Not your daily driver paint range.
That's right. So, abandoning a product. Is there any other examples you can think of, or any other reasons why you would maybe abandon?
Cost.
Oh.
Things become prohibitively expensive.
So I want to use this super expensive
contrast paint, $8 a pop.
But yeah, I guess if you run out of a bottle of it, right? Because that abandoning means that you have enveloped it first,
right? So at one point you owned it.
Yeah.
So I guess it's referred to like products that increase in price over time.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So when all of us accidentally boop over our Nuln Oil pot and it goes everywhere. Maybe it's the cost is the reason for abandoning using Nuln Oil, and instead I got this big tube of black oil paint, and that will last me my lifetime to make my own washes out of. Maybe that's the catalyst I need to make that abandoning step.
Yeah, possibly.
That's a good one. What about, I'm switching from products now. I'm switching back to individual models.
Okay.
What about if it's fine cast?
That's kind of a decision you make before you even begin painting, right? So there is no, unless you went and bought the model knowing that it was going to be bad. I don't know. To me, that's different than like getting halfway through painting a model and then being like, I don't like this. I want to restart. That's a decision you should have made right in the beginning.
Well, sometimes you just are optimistic. And you're thinking that, but I see that happening more often. It's still part of the hobby spectrum, and that is the cleaning it and prepping it and assembling it phase. And you're like, his spear is this wobbly spaghetti noodle, and he's got such a shift that from the mold that his face is like all off-centered, and there's bubbles from the resin everywhere. Well, this is while I'm like assembling and cleaning it. I might just abandon it.
Right.
And there's a lot of other factors that go into that. You know, it's like, oh, I bought a lot on eBay and he was in there. He's cool, kind of cool model. I wanted to paint him. I'm not super invested in that one model. I might just abandon that son of a bitch and be like, screw it. I can't do it. Or I got it cheap or whatever.
You realize that this model is going to take an amount of effort and you are not ready to invest. And so you kind of just like give up because you don't want to have to expend that effort and maybe possibly not enjoy the process.
Yeah.
I think the thing I'm trying to dance around right now that I don't want to say is that when you stop having fun, you should stop painting the model. It's like, that's dangerous.
Right.
Because this is coming off of the heels of last week where we just said to do hard things and to finish what you start. Well, this is 2 weeks ago. Oh, sorry, this is 4 weeks ago. Two fortnights. Episodes. Yeah. So it's like, I don't want to say you abandon a model when you're not enjoying painting it anymore, because there's value in finishing stuff and there's value in doing things that are difficult. This is actually a great fallacy of modern thinking of people, you know, younger people, a lot of people, we'll say everyone, is that because I want to do it and I'm not hurting anyone, it's okay to do.
Sure.
A perfect example of this is I want to eat Doritos every single night. I will be fat if I do that. It has repercussions. So it's like, you shouldn't just always do what you feel you want to do, because oftentimes it might not be good for you in the long run. That's a really hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. Doing what's easy is not always doing what's right.
Oh yeah. You just summarized what I said in 5 minutes and 6 seconds.
I think that's a really interesting point to touch on and to differentiate too. Walking away from something because it stops being fun, I think is not the same as abandoning it.
Yeah.
Saying that my excitement is now driven somewhere else and I'm going to ride that wave of excitement is great. As long as I know, like, there's got to be a time where I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to be renewed, a new set of eyes, a new motivation to finish this thing. I'll come back to it. It's not abandoned. But this new one is getting me excited. As long as you don't continuously stop yourself when it gets hard and then move on somewhere else. Because if you always stop yourself when it gets hard, you're not going to get better.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get that back to the 4 weeks ago. You're not going to get to that level of true satisfaction of completing something, of going through something hard.
Right.
Because you abandon it. Even if you're telling yourself, I didn't abandon it, I just moved on to something else. Well, if you got a lot of 3/4 painted minis, because you're just never going to worry about dotting the I's. You know, it's not quite there. Maybe that level of satisfaction is if you actually got that pupil right that one time and he doesn't look cross-eyed. You know, you're going to learn from that. You'll be more satisfied to take some risks and to try new things.
Yeah. I think that's interesting. I like to do a mixture of advice that is not tangible and also advice that is tangible. So let's say you have a miniature you're not enjoying. Put it aside. We're not going to abandon anything we paint. Paint 2 projects and then come back to it. And that is to say that you should have some kind of schedule for getting back to the thing that you gave up on. Because if you don't have a schedule, the easy thing to do is just to never get back to it.
Right.
But then say to yourself, well, I'm not abandoning it, like you were just saying.
Right.
But you really are. So develop a schedule for yourself to return to things that you once gave up on. And maybe the plan isn't to finish that thing, but just to kind of reinterpret it, start it over again, toss on a new color, and then maybe see if you like it now. And maybe you won't. Maybe you'll stop again and then go to something else. But at least you continue to come back to it, try new things, and persevere.
I think one thing that's helped me with that.
Thanks for the thumbs up.
Yeah. It's the nonverbal cue that you're doing okay. I try to keep my non-finished painted minis in view of my painting desk.
Interesting.
So at my desk or on a shelf really nearby where I can't avoid looking at them.
Right.
And if you follow or do your best to follow the paint on brush every day thing, you'll find you'll go back to them naturally. Because sometimes it's like, okay, I got to paint on my brush today. I'm committed to doing this. I only got 10, 15 minutes, or I'm just not really feeling it today. Let me just grab something that already has paint on it, right? something that I put on the shelf because I wasn't loving it at the time. I find that I will grab something that already has been started rather than going through the kind of mental hurdles of starting something brand new from scratch and what colors am I going to use, or how am I going to make this work, or is this going to be part of an Armies? I have to look similar to that, or I just have so much mental stuff that I've got to get through for a start of a project. But something that's already started, a lot of that stuff, it just kind of melts away, and I just put paint on the Mini. So don't let yourself avoid it. Don't throw it in a box in a closet, because that's where stuff gets abandoned, whether you like it or not.
Okay, so inside of you.
Yep. Insight, and then just say, well, this maybe has hit my can only paint 15 minutes today pile. And I'll work on it 15 minutes at a time. And maybe at one point I'll look at it and I'm excited. And it's like, tonight I have 2 hours. I'm going to go to that one because I got it to a point where I'm excited again. Let me come back to it naturally.
Okay. I think, I don't know, you could abandon a miniature when you damage it beyond repair.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Like you left a box in your 120 degree car and they all melty.
Yeah, or you're a dingus like me, and I travel with super glue and models in like this kind of, like those boxes you get that have like dividers. You can take them out and put them in. They can hold all kinds of stuff.
Battle foam.
Yeah, well, not battle foam, but like they're for any hobbies. They're little containers, little plastic containers.
Hobby foam.
Okay.
Container foam.
There's no foam in it. It's just plastic.
Just plastic.
I brought some models in there to assemble. I went to like a convention for work. It was like, I don't know, it doesn't matter. But I was going to assemble like during the night.
Mm-hmm.
And I had super glue in there and some models that were partially assembled. And I went home with it, and the super glue leaked into the models. They're fucked. You can't use them anymore.
Oh, no. What models were they?
They were the, what's like the skirmish game for 40K? There's a few of them.
Kill Team?
Not Kill Team. The other one. Underhive. Necromunda. It was a Necromunda team. The one that I didn't, Van Sar. The old men with ponytails and sci-fi guns and shields.
Oh, yeah.
Don't really care about them a whole lot because that was during a time where I was like, I want to buy a Necromunda team. And they were like the coolest one. And then like literally a month later,
every other one after that was cooler.
Yeah, everyone. And this is my fault because I should have just looked at the old Necromunda game and saw the old squads or the old gangs, and I'm like, yeah, obviously these are coming out. They're way cooler. I should wait for that. But so it doesn't matter a whole lot. But that is an example of you destroyed a model and you can't paint it anymore. So just don't.
Yeah, I think that there's something that's probably a little bit more like less obvious on that spectrum, I should say. Less obvious that still kind of is okay to apply as well.
Okay.
If it's something that you're not in love with and it's going to be so much more effort to get it to where you're going to have a finished painted model, maybe it's okay to abandon that and to spend your time painting something else. So this sword has broken at the hand 4 times. It can't be pinned. The joint is not strong enough. It's for a gaming piece.
Yeah, if you're a quitter, it can't be pinned.
And it's super thin or whatever, and it just doesn't work. Well, you've got some options there, but one of them is kit bash a new one for that dude and paint that one and make that one look cooler than what you had been working on there. Sometimes it's okay to abandon a model if you're going to find something else that excites you to replace that model. Or I really, really wanted to, paint this mini for this purpose for either a competition or just for fun. And then I realized, actually, I own something that for that kind of paint scheme, I'm more excited about it turning out better in this scheme. And this one isn't maybe be good for something else. Okay, I'll put that one aside. I'll abandon it for this painting project. Doesn't mean I'm throwing it in the garbage. I'm not going to paint it. I'm going to go over here. So, like, if you really wanted to do a glow from hell, right? Stupid red glow from hell mini. And you started on one, and then you're like, oh, crap, I forgot. I got that bust from FER Miniatures. I totally should use that one. That one seems way cooler than I had to do this for. Okay, abandon the stupid red glow on this one and embrace it on this one.
Okay. Have you seen Abalam? or Abalum. It's a bust. It's a demon bust. Actually, it's not a bust. It's the D&D race tiefling. I don't know. It's called Abalum or Abalum, Prince of Hell. Can't remember the company that made it. But Roman Lapat painted it, and it was one of the first times I saw something painted from below, illuminated from below, and it was like he's in hell, so it's like red and fiery. Have you seen that model?
Is he look kind of like a fire demon?
Yeah, kind of. He comes with a version where he has like a samurai helmet or no helmet.
I'm sure I have, but I can't. I was thinking of the different bust that's actually a demon that looks like he's made like he is out of fire.
Okay. No, it's not that.
Okay.
It's older. That might change your opinion about hating red glow.
All right.
Anyone can do it. That's Roman.
0 days. Roman Lapat.
Yeah, no kidding.
Damn you, Roman.
Another time where you might, and this something I thought of while you were just speaking there, is if you're painting a model that it's gonna maybe teach you or give you similar like emotions or feelings as something else you already have or already painted. Like I'm painting something and it's not for an army, because this happens all the time when you're painting for an army, but it's for artistic joy, and you're like, I've already done something similar to this. I don't need to do it again. I'm just gonna give up. But I don't know how applicable that is, because you can paint something in so many different ways that when is it ever gonna be like, I've already done this, I'm gonna try something else.
Yeah, because doing something, I mean, shortcut to moral of the story here is doing the same thing multiple times is how you get better at it.
True.
Yeah. But if you're bored with feeling like this is so samey same that I need to abandon it, that can be a mental abandoning of this, in saying I am from here, this point on to the rest of the finishing of this mini, I'm going on a different trajectory.
Sure.
I'm abandoning my initial thought because it feels too samey same, and I'm done with that. I'm going to try something. I'm going to tweak it differently as I go. And so often we were going to think about abandoning as some physical, like, throw it down and say, I'm through with you. I want a divorce.
Right? I declare bankruptcy.
Michael, I'm not sure that's how that works. And so sometimes you can just have that conversation with yourself, and that can be kind of uplifting to say, I am now abandoning this and taking this in this crazy new direction, and I want to see where it goes. So if you get bored, or if you're like, I just already did this, say screw it, abandon it, and change midstream. But don't just like, every time it feels like people get paint on something, and if they don't like where it's going, or it's not what they intended, or whatever, they feel like they need to strip and restart. I mean, we've said this 100 times.
Yeah, I made a skip making fun of those people
by taking a bath in Civil Green. This boom armor has no detail. Civil Green. I can't believe I can recall that video.
It's a great skit.
2 years later. Oy, oy, oy. But yeah, don't just paint over it. Just say it still looks good. I can just take a direction from here. Instead of keep building my highlights up to cream, I'm going to build my highlights up with a bright orange and just go with that. Just don't undo everything you've done just because you're not happy with where you're at right now. What it looks like right now is not what it will look like in the end. So
yeah, I mean, we're kind of getting to the point where we're taking the word abandon and we're kind of changing the meaning of it.
Yeah,
you could almost consider abandonment cutting corners, right? So like when I'm painting Orion, dude's got a billion leaves on him. I'm not going to paint every single leaf a different color like you would see in nature. I'm instead going to skip that. I'm going to cut a corner and maybe just do a gradient from top to bottom. So there is differentiation, but I'm not going insane painting a bunch of fine cast leaves where the majority of the detail is on the edge of the leaf and everything else is just like, I don't know, it's hard to explain.
It's just a blobby blob.
Yeah,
with pokey edges.
Yeah, it's just, there's so much edge going on in that model.
Did you edge highlight all those leaves?
I did the ones that are closer up on top.
Sure, that would actually catch light on an edge.
Yeah, but like the ones on the bottom were like kind of murky and brown, and
that's how it looks like in the real world.
Yeah, well, hopefully. But yeah, so I don't know if we would consider that abandonment, but there are lots of times during a painting process where I will cut a corner and go a different way and pivot and abandon an original thought I had because what I was doing wasn't working. Like I washed the dogs in black and they were zenithally coated in white. And the dogs are mostly white, but washing it in black was a mistake because it stained the white a ton. I thought with the amount of gloss varnish I put on and the sharp detail, it would stay mostly white, but just the recesses would be black. But that was a mistake I made. So then the next dog, I might do something different. I might wash it in gray instead of black and get a different, better result.
Yeah.
But no, this is not abandonment. This is just I learned a lesson and did something differently now.
Yeah, we're just taking this word abandoning and we are just applying it to everything.
Everything.
And it works. Whenever I have to yawn, like my voice gets higher. Like right now. I still think this is all applicable. All applicable. We are just making our own definition of the word abandonment.
Sure, right.
Yeah. But I think that the stuff we talked about in the beginning was really true to form of like tangible abandonment of like, I'm throwing this thing away. I am stopping using this product. I am no longer going to paint this style.
Can you think of hobby products you've abandoned?
I abandoned GW PVA glue.
Okay, yeah. Because it just costs too much for what it is, right?
For being school glue.
I abandoned the Posh Talon V2 airbrush.
Me too.
The first one I bought, it served me well, but there are other ones out there that are better.
It did not serve me well.
No, you had one too?
We had the same one with the orange end.
And now we have the same one again.
And we have come back together. And we have
Airbrush Brothers.
we both had Posh, and we both had Sotar, and now we both have HPCS.
Did you know HPCS is like the middle of the road airbrush that they make?
Is it really?
Yeah, so I went on their site.
What's the Cadillac?
The Cadillac is the Micron.
Oh, I just assumed that meant it was smaller shooter size. Sorry if you guys don't catch this technical jargon.
The needle diameter is smaller on the Micron, but there are other features that make it more, what's the word I want to use?
Good.
Yeah.
It's more gooder at things.
Fancy. But yeah, there's several categories. And you can click on them, and it's like for medium level detail, the HPCS. It's like, well, I paint freaking miniatures. Like, what the heck? What's the best one? So it's the Micron. It costs about $500, $400.
Whoa!
But there's one in between the Micron and the HPCS. I think there's like 5 different levels of airbrushes you can get. And so it got me thinking. The Micron is kind of like, but it's kind of like the Infinity of Harder and Steenbeck.
Sure.
The Harder and Steenbeck one is not $500. It's probably like
$250.
Yeah, it's something like that. But yeah, it got me thinking.
You got me stinking and thinking. I did buy a second Iwata. I bought that one that's got a wider needle.
Yeah.
Because I want to use that for like bigger projects or for blowing through like enamels and stuff like that. That I want a wider nozzle.
Right, because you were sick of your old one after it clogged right after you cleaned it.
Yeah, that was a $20 Masters airbrush I got off of eBay.
Let me ask a question about that. I don't think I've ever had an airbrush clog. Well, I haven't had one clog in like 2 years. What you're saying happens is while you're using your airbrush, product will no longer come out of it. Correct. And it's not because it's dry tip?
Correct.
Wow, really?
It'll shoot through air even still. But no
dry tip even sometimes? And
no, I mean, sometimes it is dry tip. More often than not, it's something clogged behind there.
Wow.
That's, that's preventing any product from going through.
Dang.
And so sometimes what you can do is you can crank up your PSI, you can unscrew your needle, pull your needle halfway out, and then blow, and that'll shoot the stuff through.
Yeah.
But that doesn't always work.
Right.
Because sometimes it's partially dried in a big goobery thing, and even if a bit comes out, it won't get all of it, or it's a big enough chunk. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just not really good at airbrush. So
yeah, neither am I.
You probably learned that from your Jazza video. That's like, I really wish I could be able to do all this with airbrush.
Yeah.
That's a big model. That's pretty good. I see like the people that use a lot though, they do that for either filtering interesting color gradations over surfaces, or they do the main pieces, even on big pieces. I'm looking at like Trent Zennison and Sergio Calvo.
Yeah, you do the flash or something like that.
Yeah, you do like the main section to really build up with airbrush. You're not doing what you did, where you literally tried to paint every belt and everything, or choose not to do that because it's not really possible.
Yeah.
And just do it all kind of in one gradation. But if they're hitting multiple things with this crimson kind of interesting light from below that's really faint, then it's likely that would hit all surfaces, and it's okay. But they're not just like, I mean, they're still way better than me, like a million times, but
yeah.
Whatever.
Okay, other hobby products we've abandoned. GW brushes.
Yeah.
I abandoned that. Hard palettes.
Hard palettes.
Screw hard palettes.
Yeah, I see some people still use that for metallics and stuff sometimes.
Yeah, they're in denial.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, okay, the whole metallic thing, yeah. People think ridiculous things about that. I've been meaning to do an experiment. I think we discussed this maybe briefly on the podcast.
Yeah.
People think metallic pigments
or not.
They think metallic pigments get into the sponge and then get into your other paints. Maybe that happens. Maybe mica flakes are small enough to get through the pores in parchment paper. Maybe. If they do, is it that big of a deal? So I want to do this test where I take a pot of paint and pour it into my wet palette. Just full scale. Just like then put paper down and then paint and then see if my space marine turns into a sparkle marine.
Yeah.
I'm curious what would happen. But that situation is not what normally happens. They're talking about a few flakes getting through and then transferring over to something else, which to me it sounds ridiculous. I always put my metallics on a wet palette, and I've never had any problems.
Almost just because I'm too lazy to have a second thing to have to clean or throw away.
Yeah.
I mean, I have collected over the last 2 years like 700 screw tops from like water bottles that I just keep them all for things like when I need to transfer out some color of an airbrush or whatever, I can like just throw it in that lid. But I guess in theory, I've got all these lids I could put the metallic paints just in one of those, but I just never do. I'm just like, I already have the palette. Oh, I don't care. It's fine. People talk about using a different water cup for your metallics or change out your water after you use metallics and stuff. And
that, to me, that's more reasonable, because if you do a lot of metallics and just swirl the water, you can see tons of the flakes. But that being said, sometimes when I'm feeling lazy and the model's got like a few elements of gold filigree, I'll use some gold and then paint some more of the rest of the model, and nothing ever happens.
Yeah. In your average single miniature, there's not so much metallic flakes that it matters.
I'm thinking like a Grey Knight. Like you paint all of his silver armor, now you want to paint his white cloth, and it's like, okay, you might get some sparkles in the white, maybe.
Maybe. I have given up on the GW mold line remover. I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I own it.
I own it too. I don't know why I bought it. I've always thought it was stupid.
I got it because I had a gift certificate from a local painting competition. This is when I first started that I won their little painting contest, and I had like a $25 gift card, and they didn't really carry many products. And this is at a time where I was still very new and didn't want to commit to spending $60 on a box for models I don't really play the game. I don't really particularly like them. And they didn't carry very many products. So I was like, I don't know what to have here that looks good. And I'm like, oh, if this thing works so much better than trying to use an X-Acto blade and cleaning a model, sweet, I'm going to get that. And of course, the guy that worked there, he's like, oh yeah, dude, it's so much smoother. And I'm like, oh, sweet. So I bought that because I had $25 gift certificate, and that was $25. There's my excuse. The fucking thing, it works awesome if you're like cleaning a giant rhino.
I mean, it's a dull piece of metal.
Yeah,
right.
It just has a machined edge to it. So if you can get it flat and flush over a large surface and then just let it run, it won't scrape anything, but it'll just peel off that little mold line. But in the hobby that we're in, how often do you have that opportunity where this fairly large metal square end can just go over that, and there's not intricate little, raises and detail and changes and surfaces and all these little things that thing physically cannot get fit into. Mm-hmm. So I haven't used it in Long time. What else? Is there any paints or paint kind of products you don't use anymore? I mean, I'm just going to say another GW one, but like...
Here, I can do something.
Oh, go ahead.
I painted an entire model, an Arena Rex model, in Reaper's Master Series paints, and it was not an intentional decision to not use them ever again, just one that naturally occurred. So from my experience using them, it was not compelling enough to use them, so I kind of abandoned them. They've sat up there, and I've never used them a single time again.
Are they thinner?
Yes.
Yeah, I have like, I don't know, maybe 10 Reaper paints, and I had used I've used all the colors multiple times, and then I just never came back to them because they were too thinned. And sometimes I want more body to my paint. Yeah. Oftentimes I do. Yeah. If I want it to that thin state, I can get it there myself pretty fast. But I want to be able to have a little bit more body to it. They didn't always cover really great. At least some of the colors didn't cover really great with that too, which kind of bummed me out or turned me off to them. So I just kind of, not on purpose too. They have a couple of specific colors that I really like that I could see myself going back to and grabbing and using again, but I just haven't used their paints a lot.
Okay. Can you think of any examples where you gave up on models specifically, paint jobs, or where you started a model and were like, this sucks, I'm going to redo it, and then...
There's one that jumps out to me. It was a metal confrontation mini. I'd been painting for about, not very long, 6 months. And it has a lot of, he's just like a muscly bare chest dude with a big axe and like a death dealer helmet on. And cool model, metal. I got it all cleaned and primed and everything. But I was to a point where, and maybe now is still the case, he had a ton of differences in depth on his skin over very small surfaces, like all the muscles, like the giant 6-pack and all these exaggerated muscle tones that were like, they had a lot of curves to them, and like they went way out and then way in, then way out and way in, way out, way in very small periods of time.
Right.
I abandoned the model because I started with his skin tones, and I felt like I couldn't get any mid-tones anywhere. Everything was either a very tiny thing that was a raised portion, or a very major thing that would obviously be in shadow and get no light. And so it ended up looking so stupid because it was just like all highlights and shadows.
Yeah.
And there wasn't enough.
Too exaggerated.
Yeah, it was so exaggerated. I just had no surface area to make it look like it looks right at all to my eye. This said, it was all primed black. All I had done was his chest and like his biceps. That's all I had painted, and I gave up. So there was no other colors around him. So maybe if I would have continued and got more of the surfaces with color on them, I would have come up with something.
Okay.
I could have reestablished it. But at the time, I was just like, this looks like poop. I don't know how to make it better. I abandoned it. It's still sitting in my drawer, still on the hobby holder thing or a cork or something, and pinned into it. So
you remind me of something. I had this video series a long time ago. It was 2 videos long. It was called How I Paint. And I did it in the first year, so 2016, I made my channel. And I was painting a succubus from the Dark Eldar, a 40k army, Drew Hikari. And I wanted to try something new with the skin tone. And so I painted it in a cream colored, just like an off-white yellow. And I wanted to glaze blue into the shadows, to do blue shadows.
Sure.
And I did it with ink, and it looked shit. And then I did it, and then I was like, I need to fix this. I need to introduce warmth into the skin tone because she looks ridiculous. So I glazed orange into the highlights and midtone, and she looked like a clown. Actually, literally. I don't have footage of the clown, but I have a picture of it in that video, and it's heinous. So I was like, this is not worth salvaging. I didn't strip it. I just repainted over it.
Sure.
And it looked fine.
You never know. There's a clown under there.
Yeah, no, seriously. If you had stripped it, you'd get to a layer that was orange and blue. Like, are you a Bears fan? Like, what's going on here? That, for our non-American viewers, the Bears are a football team in American football that have orange and blue colors. All right. Anyways, so yeah, that was a point where I full scale was like, nope, this is shit. I'm restarting. And it just looked like terrible. I just came to the conclusion that this was not salvageable. It was not worth salvaging, and tried something else.
Sometimes when you paint a clown, you can make your way through and it turns out okay. Sometimes when you paint a clown, you just need to stop painting a clown.
Yeah.
If you're to that point where you're just like, which I'm guessing that's where you're at, you're like, I don't know where to go from here to make this not look like Garbo.
Yeah.
I'm just going to start over. I think that feels more reasonable to me. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. You have anything else you want to say about abandoning projects or anything else?
No, I feel like we need to abandon
this conversation. All right. Jettison in 3, 2, 1. All right. On to the news. We got some news for you today. Number 1 on the list. Monument Hobbies and Creature Caster broke up.
Yeah, they are no longer one and the same.
Yeah, the Monument Hobbies didn't like to be known as the Creature Caster paint anymore. Monument Hobbies is I don't know if it's owned or if it's run by or in collaboration with the streamer
Slow Fuse.
Is it owned by him?
Yes.
Okay.
Jason and Jen. Jason is Slow Fuse. They are Monument Hobbies. And they even before they were together with Creature Caster, they had their own line of products originally.
Yeah, like the magic brush soap thing.
The soap, they had their own line of brushes, both synthetic and sable hair. They have like hobby go bags, they're called. They're kind of like, it looks like a padded lunch bag, but it can have all your hobby stuff in it. And they're actually really efficient for space and kind of cool stuff. Really cool. And they have like paint racks and stuff like that. So they've got a bunch of products. They got into the paints, I think, as part of this connectivity to join Creature Caster. It was probably, and I don't know this for certain, but that would be my guess, because that would be like a catalyst for joining forces to have an all-in-one company, right? All these awesome models and all the things you need to paint them.
Yes.
And so that was kind of the catalyst there. But they were still fairly separate in what they did. You know, Peter and crew in Canada were all the model makers, and then
Slow Fuse,
Jason
and Craze.
Yeah, Jason Craze and Jen were the folks in Arizona handling all the paint stuff and all the other stuff related to their hobby products. So I think at a certain point they both benefited, I think, from being together. So I think that the time that they had together, they both increased some reach of their brand. And I also agree that they could be mutually beneficial for them to now part ways.
So does this mean that Creature Caster isn't shipping things from a United States depot anymore? Because I know Jason did that.
Yeah, he was the hub for all the U.S. shipping.
So now we have to pay Canadian shipping prices.
I'd like to think that if this was something they were kind of trying to mull around for a while, that's something the Creature Caster crew probably had figured out a solution to.
Okay.
Because they had a European hub as well, where they'd shipped out of there, but it was something that was kind of a was still not all the kinks worked out of it, and they didn't get replenished in products as quickly over there yet. But that's something that's worked on. What's interesting though is that now they kind of get the benefits of, each of them got the benefits of the other. Of, I'm getting a model, I'm going to get a couple paints too, or I'm going to get a brush too, and vice versa.
That cross-pollination.
Yeah, that's great. And the way that the shipping worked within their company, that worked out well. Now, on the flip side of it, if I'm hearing a lot about Monument paints here, all these good things, a lot of great people are talking about it, whatever. I'm just speaking as any sprue to spruette. And I hear great things about their paint. I go to their website, and I immediately am accosted by nasty Nurgle demons and boobies hanging out everywhere. All I came here for was some paint. What if that's not my thing? So I'm talking about potential positives for Jason and Jen.
Okay.
It's
brand imagery
and trying to, be more inclusive to people buying into their products. And we're talking about, the crew of Creaturecaster up in Canada, that they get to just focus on and streamline on and really build their brand without other distractions, right? Because I know their crew was still involved and Peter was still involved in a lot of the hobby side stuff, but that just wasn't their passion or wasn't what they were tied to, and it wasn't what their focus was. So I'm sure there's a lot of more work because we're a bigger company.
Yeah, it was a little weird because it was just like, why is this called Monument? Why isn't this just Creaturecaster paint? It's like, oh, it's someone else is making this and you're selling it in a weird collaborative effort. It was just always kind of strange. All right.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, it always felt that they were always kind of like, well, we're married, but we sleep in different bedrooms.
Okay, well that's it. Those guys broke up. So if you want Monument Hobbies, they have their own website now. No longer sold on CC's website. They are selling out whatever remaining stock they have.
Yeah, we'll put a link below for both of their websites.
Yeah.
We support and love. I don't know what you. I love all this stuff. I love what Monument does, and I love what Creaturecaster does. I have a lot of products from both companies.
Yeah, not doing anything wrong as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
All right, next up, the 40K Indomitus, quote unquote, shitstorm.
Yeah, I just called it a shitstorm.
I mean, that's kind of more or less what it is.
Yeah. So GW reaches out to store owners, local friendly game store owners, to say, we need to know how many boxes you're predicting you're going to need. Okay, this is something they've done for a long time. It's the clunkiest fucking thing in the world. It's so goddamn dumb. And then our, local store people are like, owners, game store owners are like, hey team, on Facebook or whatever, hey team, who wants to order? Does anyone have an idea how many we want?
Gosh.
That literally
Seriously?
have to do that. Yes.
Everyone's going to say yes.
Yes.
And you're going to get like 20% of your... so dumb.
Yes. So they get them and they're like, okay, our local store, not a ton of people, it's not a big town, whatever. We had like 17 people that said yes, which is a lot of boxes of that stuff. And like everywhere else, comes back around, pre-orders are set, all this stuff, and they're nowhere to be found. Your 17 is actually 7. You actually don't get all the boxes that you said you wanted. And it's sold out on GW's website in under an hour. And suddenly this box is gone. The second it was available, it's gone. And GW said, well, it's actually a limited edition box, so it's gone. And people lost their fucking minds. It wasn't ever even really clear that this wasn't the starter set. It's like launches just almost side by side with the new 9th edition, all this stuff. I assumed it was the new 9th starter box.
So did I.
And it's not. It's not. It's a limited edition box. So then when that started to sink in to everybody, because nobody really questioned it, because that's just semantics. Whatever you call it is whatever you call it, until you realize this is a limited edition box, meaning, oh, not only did I not get mine, there's no guarantee that they're going to make any more. That's not typically how GW works. Like the Sisters of Battle box.
Hold on. When you say I didn't get mine, that means I put a comment on my local hobbies Facebook post saying, who wants one? And I said yes.
That counts
you didn't put money down.
It counts as a pre-order, but GW doesn't take money for that. I mean, I don't think stores do either, but maybe some do.
Okay, but no money's being put down. Like, no one's getting bamboozled, are they?
Right. But it's with the expectation that you have with your local game store or even an online pre-order that I sign up.
I always pay for online pre-orders.
Yeah, then what they do is they send you your money back.
Right.
Because there is no product for you to have. And because I have thought with my pre-order, whether I put down money or didn't put down money, I assume I'm getting the product. And then when I just straight up don't, and they send me my money back, the day that it's released is when they're going to do that, because they didn't know this information either. None of these retailers knew any of this, or online retailers.
Yeah.
So then I'm screwed because they're already gone everywhere. I learned the information that I can't get it from where I thought I was getting it after the fact that I could actually do something about it.
Right.
And then they're all gone, and guess what happens that very same day? Scalpers. So they're all gone, but now that box is, I don't know, $500 on eBay. You want one?
No. Okay, so it's worth mentioning that I do think there are online stores that did take pre-orders for Indomitus as a way to figure out how many they wanted to get from GW that are now no longer able to fulfill those orders.
Yep.
So like not just a Facebook comment, but actual money.
Yes.
There are
That's
people,
just what I'm just giving an example of what my local store does. And I know
Yeah.
a lot of other local stores do that way too, because an extra transaction of we know all our play group, whatever, someone says they're going to want a box. We're a smaller store. It's not that many boxes.
Right.
It's fine.
Right.
And they can send back. Like GW has a whole system of sending product back and whatever, and they can get other things.
Okay.
Same price range. So it's not a big deal. So then, 48 hours later, GW says, "Oh, whoopies." They never said whoopies. They made they basically said, "Okay, we realize it's all sold out because of your great support. Not that we fucked up and we didn't produce nearly as many as were needed. We're going to have this open like print to order system where if you go directly through GW's website and order one of these, they'll have one made to order for you, and it's open for like 2 weeks or something." And so that cuts out the scalpers.
Does it though?
Yeah.
What happens after the 2 week period?
You can only buy one per person.
Yeah,
so
but
it's
the
not like-
scalpers already got their boxes, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, and people are still going to break them down and sell them model by model, unit by unit. It's like they do with every GW box. It's just there's not infinite quantity in theory as there is now. I mean, people are blaming the scalpers on this, but this is a free market. It's good where people are trying to flip something to make money because there's a market to do it. I don't blame them because they had to go through and buy these boxes just like all the rest of us. They signed up for buying 10 and you signed up for buying 1. If they got 8 of their 10, you got 0 your 1. I don't blame them. I blame the company that produced the product that set up a system for sign up and didn't fulfill the desire, and then they're saying it's limited edition, we're not gonna make anymore. You can be mad at scalpers, and I there's something that you can be mad at there, but you need to be mad at is someone lying to you about saying you pre-order a thing,
We're gonna meet your quantity.
yes,
Yeah.
and then just not do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I want to say about that. Sorry.
It's okay.
And I'm sure I did some research and looked into this to figure out exactly what went down because I wasn't entirely certain on it. And I'm sure there's a lot more minutia and there's possibility I got something wrong in what I just said, but I'm fairly certain I'm in the ballpark. So
Okay.
enough to have an opinion.
Okay. Fair enough. Last thing, GHB 2020 comes out for Age of Sigmar, and it's missing some info.
Yeah, what's it missing, Scott?
About 7 armies worth of their points?
Yeah.
The newer ones.
Yeah, the 7 most recent books.
What?
So, yes. So that's probably over like a year's worth of books.
I can't think of a reason why.
They claim it's because of... All right, just to clarify, we say the points that are in there. It's even more confusing than that. All those 7 armies, their points are in the book. They're just wrong.
How are they wrong?
Anything that is changed for that army that is to be changed, just like every other army had points updates and tweaks, just like your Blood Knights points went down, okay? If those armies had tweaks, and they will have tweaks, if those armies have 7 armies have tweaks and points, the pre-tweaked points are what they put in that book.
How confusing.
Yep.
Is that made obvious anywhere in the book itself?
No, it's online. They posted something about it where it said, and they tell you what 7 armies they are, and like, oh, they'll have in the near future they'll have an FAQ update available online with their true points.
GW just needs to realize that this is not the way you balance a system that moves this quickly. Remove points from books entirely, put them only online, and then you can make fucking weekly patches to your game.
Yeah.
And balance it agile, like really quickly. This book thing is ridiculous. And then you do this dumb shit where you... I don't know.
It's just a prime example of how stupid your system is for this means of keeping your game balanced. This $40 book, if it is obsolete the day it's released.
Yeah, no
it's
kidding.
inaccurate the day it's released. Now, well, they can't charge $40 for it if there's not the points in there, Scott. That's what their claim is. I mean, they're not. No one in GW would say that, but that's exactly the reason. Because this is more money.
What do you mean?
They can't charge $40 for this book if the points aren't in there. They can, but no one's going to buy it.
No, yeah, no one. It's going to be a fun, fluffy thing for the game. It's going to have your campaign stuff in it, your other things in it.
Yep. It's got other great things like the new match play scenarios, the tweaked match play scenarios, which are good for a full year to the next one anyway. So that can happen once a year. There's a tons of narrative stuff. There's the build your own hero system now in there.
Hero Forge, is that what it's called?
No, it's not called Hero Forge.
No,
but it's something. It's some crucible of, I don't know, mice and men. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just naming some.
Okay, I understand where there's a direct correlation, and I'm not going to include points in the book. I'm not going to make as many sales. I will lose money. But there's another devious thing at work here where I am causing an inconvenience to customers who are slowly leaving and not buying the book in the first place because how stupid it is and would rather get it somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it's like at some point you need to rip the rug out from underneath you so that you can just create a better system, which creates a better relationship with your end client, and then they buy more. You invest in their happiness, you make more money. This is like business 101. I don't need to explain this. I don't get it. I don't get the book thing. It's stupid.
I don't either. I think you already have a pretty nice app. It's not a great app, but it's a pretty nice app.
Yeah, for making lists and stuff.
Yeah, making lists and looking through all the rules for everything. And
yeah, it works.
Search function. Why can't they just have the points on there and have those always be updated? Okay, if you set an FAQ up on the website and say, here's some points tweaks we made, blah, 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 blah. We do this roughly 4 times a year. As soon as it's live, our IT team also has it pushed to the app, for the app's always up to date.
Yes.
Boom. That just seems too logical. That seems like something in a free market in most other industries is considered the norm, not the exception.
Yes.
Okay? You go out there and you open a new bank account in 5 different financial institutions. All of them are going to have some pretty close and high-end banking software apps for you to use that all have some pretty important features because that's universally is being pushed by the market for us to have a certain highest level of expectation. GW does not have that from other folks that are pushing them on their coattails to meet a certain expectation.
Okay.
And because of that, I can drag their feet on this because the old way, we can see the dollars coming in from knocking out this book every year.
Right, yeah.
It's harder to transition. I think they're still trying to do the right thing for a lot of things. And
sure,
it takes a long time to roll a boulder up a hill. Right?
Yeah. Okay,
So,
yeah.
not shitting on everything.
Okay, yeah. We crucified and then we kind of like undid one nail. And now they're hanging there by their feet in their one hand.
Yeah. And they're like, hey, you want like a chicken sandwich or something?
you can eat it now.
Yeah. And that brings us to the end of the podcast.
Thank you for listening to us ramble on.
This might be our longest episode ever.
A lot of dog intervention. Dog intervention. I don't know what that means.
Yeah. Crusher, we don't know how to tell you this, but your family loves you and you need to quit eating the rabbit turds in the yard.
You got a barking problem, son. If you want to support the podcast, there are multiple ways to do it. You can buy our merchandise, which we sell on Teespring, linked in the description and the show notes. You can support us on Patreon, which gets you access to fun things like extended versions of this podcast, where we talk about things like our favorite miniatures from other painters. Mm-hmm. We talk about things like new techniques we've tried and failed at and succeeded at. And also we give feedback to one of your models. So as part of that $5 buy-in, you can supply us with pictures of your miniatures, and we give feedback to one in-depth per episode in that extended edition. Wow, we're so cool.
Yeah, you described that so well.
Thank you.
That was what the wow was for.
I've had 23 episodes to practice. But yeah, you can also give us a review on Apple Podcasts and any place where you listen to podcasts. You can rate us as only good. I don't want to hear your bad stuff. No, I'm just kidding. Whatever you feel, we want to hear that. It's important for feedback to be honest and transparent so we can be better.
Yeah. You realize that? It just made me think of that. That means we're almost coming up on episode 26. You know what episode 26 means?
Yeah.
We've done this for a damn year.
One damn year.
What the hell? can't believe you guys have been listening for a whole year. I mean, I can perfectly believe that we've been talking for a full year.
Ain't running out of things to say yet.
Nope.
All right. That's it for the podcast. Thank you for hanging out. We'll catch you all on the
Flippity flop. Flop.